WWE is hitting AEW right where it hurts, and it starts with WrestleMania weekend. Under the TKO umbrella, it seems like WWE's growing influence everywhere, and with WrestleMania weekend, it seems like they're really trying to dominate, especially at a time where AEW has lost momentum. Today, there was a groundbreaking announcement that WWE has made, and quite frankly, it just seems like WWE is really trying to show AEW why they are the top guys. Now, I'm sure you've noticed by now, almost every day there's been some sort of announcement by WWE, but today this announcement actually comes from a partner of WWE, which goes to show you the lengths that WWE is going to push AEW further and further to the side. Now, before we actually get to the announcement, it's important to understand why WWE is doing this, and I think the answer is really simple. TKO wants to establish themselves as the leader in sports and entertainment, and they've done a really good job doing that with the UFC for so many years, but now that WWE's under their umbrella, they want to make it really clear that big competitors are not welcome in their territory. Now, the more that WWE continues to have this influence and power, the more damaging it becomes to AEW, which is surely going to upset a lot of pro wrestling fans. Now, I understand that a lot of wrestling fans think that WWE is all about growing the business, but really their number one focus is about growing their business, and the only way to do that is by having a widespread of influence everywhere. So take WrestleMania weekend, for example. Now, as you guys know, WWE pretty much owns WrestleMania weekend, and then plenty of other indie wrestling companies do their own shows to take advantage of all of the incoming tourism. But this is where WWE is starting to get a little bit smarter, because we don't even know what's going to happen with ROH during WrestleMania weekend. There really hasn't been any formulated plans. Now, typically, Ring of Honor would actually have an event during WrestleMania weekend, but this year it doesn't appear that there is one currently in the works. At least it hasn't been revealed yet. Now, this is where WWE's tactics might be viewed a little bit more dirty, and the reason for that is because WWE main roster stars are now being announced for these local indie shows. But today's announcement is another step further. Just the other day, we saw that Pete Dunne was announced for GCW Bloodsport, and today, GCW revealed that main roster star Karrion Kross is going to be working for GCW Bloodsport as well. Now, for those of you who don't believe that Karrion Kross is necessarily a big deal, it's not about the names that WWE is announcing, but it's about the strategy that WWE actually has. And you might be wondering, well, how exactly is this damaging to AEW? Ladies and gentlemen, the purpose of WWE doing this is by having their brand associated with all of these other indie shows that are taking place. And yes, sure, some AEW talent might be working GCW and they might be working other indies, but the WWE is trying to do this to take advantage of the fact that they are the reason why these companies are there to begin with. Essentially, WWE is utilizing these smaller indie companies as a marketing tool, and when you see Karrion Kross and some of these other names like Natalya being drawn into the indie shows, it's basically showing the world that WWE is 100% using their influence correctly. See, the reality is WWE is thinking 10 steps ahead of AEW. When AEW has All In, WWE plans to counter-program. WWE is doing an international tour just days away from All In. So WWE knows that when they do things like this, they are having their name associated with all of these different cities, all of these different events, and all of these different things that get people talking about WWE and not AEW. What people don't tend to realize is by WWE doing this, yes, they do consider AEW some sort of formidable threat to their company, because at the end of the day, AEW is backed by serious money. But it's not necessarily about killing the competition, it's about growing your influence. So when WWE does these counter programs, or when they are having their main roster stars going to other indie shows, at the end of the day, it's WWE basically putting their foot down, trying to let the wrestling world know that they dominate the industry. I think AEW has so much money that WWE will never really put them out of business, but I do think WWE's widespread influence will continue to impact AEW, and therefore AEW will always be losing this perception war, which is why I always say AEW should focus on their own product and creating the best possible product that they can, and not to focus on what WWE is doing. They have two different business models. WWE cares about their brand, and I think Tony Khan cares about delivering great matches. I think if AEW creates a product that caters to their very specific audience and drops the idea of being a challenger brand, then I think AEW will be successful in their own niche. But until they come to that realization, I think challenging WWE will cause WWE and prompt WWE to keep doing these kinds of things. The counter programs, the Saturday night's main events, the widespread influence in indie wrestling. yeah, I think that's going to continue happening the more that AEW becomes a challenger. And there's also literally nothing wrong with being second place. You could still be profitable, still make money, and still grow. You're just never going to be on that level. And I understand for some people, they don't like that. They don't want to hear that. But the truth is, I don't think that's a problem if AEW can stick around for 30, 40 years, despite never becoming the number one brand. It just goes to show you that the wrestling industry is actually healthy in the sense that fans do want an alternative to the way WWE does things. All right, guys, let's switch gears and let's talk about a WWE return that could be happening imminently, maybe even as soon as tonight's episode of SmackDown. But it appears that the WWE Wyatt 6 are cleared and ready for a return. And obviously, a lot of people have mixed emotions on the Wyatt 6. We've seen that they were moved to SmackDown, but we haven't seen them appear on TV. Let's give you a breakdown of what actually happened. So for those who don't know, the Wyatt 6 were moved from Raw to WWE SmackDown, but then we never actually saw them on SmackDown, and a lot of people were wondering what the hell is actually going on. But that's because Bo Dallas, aka Uncle Howdy, was injured. Now, this is where things get really interesting because if you look at what we have seen with the Wyatt 6, it seems like there was some start and stop stuff going on television, and obviously it's become relatively confusing. However, the good news is that Fightful Select is reporting that Bo Dallas is cleared and plans for a return are imminent. WWE does actually have creative plans for the group, including Alexa Bliss. There's no bad blood with Alexa Bliss in the WWE. She did actually re-sign with the company. And the reality is the next time we see the Wyatt 6 will probably be with Alexa Bliss. It's really interesting over time hearing that there's been so many rumors of issues between Alexa and the company, but that actually doesn't appear to be the case. This is essentially WWE just wanting the group to all be together. Obviously, without Uncle Howdy, who is the star piece of the group, it makes it very difficult for them to do that. But the good news is WWE is doing this international tour with hot international crowds, and I'm making the bold prediction that we're going to see Wyatt 6 a lot sooner than later. It also appears that there are some big plans for Alexa Bliss as part of WrestleMania. I did predict on my live show, which you guys could watch Monday through Friday at 12 p.m., that maybe we're going to get Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross competing for the Women's Tag Team Championship belts. I don't know if that's necessarily what I would be doing with the Wyatt 6, but who knows? At this point, I think I just want to see them on TV. And I just also want to point out that I do have a lot of praise for this group, but I do want to see WWE put some momentum behind them. Hey, let's switch gears for our final topic of the day. What about a UFC and WWE crossover? Well, Tom Aspinall was talking about this with the Schmo, and he's actually floating around and pitching the idea of him and Cody Rhodes tag teaming against John Cena and John Jones. Now, obviously, we don't know if WWE will ever bring UFC stars in at this point. You never really know with the company, but because they're all under the TKO umbrella, there is a lot of cool intrigue about that. And let me just remind you, if you don't watch UFC, Tom Aspinall is a rising star, and there is a good possibility that he could fight and even potentially retire John Jones for the World Championship. So if that were to happen, WWE would probably want to take part of that because of all the coverage and all the interest that is being drummed up for that. So imagine John Cena and John Jones being together as heels going up against Cody and Tom Aspinall. Yeah, it would be pretty ridiculously crazy, but the point is WWE and TKO wants everybody talking about their brands, and this is one of those situations where it could work. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you next time.